Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the release of Greta Thunberg and all of the situation that's going on with the activists that went on board of the Gaza Flotilla and were illegally abducted in international waters and forced to enter the Palestinian colonized territory and taken to Kedziot prison. I don't know if I'm reading it the right way. Activists who were willing to break the siege and bring food, medical aid, and baby formula to starved children were taken to a prison, and not like any prison. In this video, I'm going to be diving into the history of this specific prison and this specific detaining facility. But before that, we'll have to talk about the whole situation of the activists. And we have to talk about the whole situation of what Israel is doing in Palestine and the countries around it. Honestly, if you let me speak about what Israel is doing in the area, I could go on and on, like for a whole year with nonstop, because I have plenty of things to say. Either it's like about attacking other countries or about their lack of morality or disrespect of human rights and international law, abusing their power. But we're gonna focus on just a few things, because whenever you fall in this rabbit hole, you start feeling the guilt about what's going on in the world and what's going on with people. I felt like when I started doing my research about what's going on in Palestine and the areas around it and what Israel did in all of that, I honestly felt so guilty that I was just living my life and did not inform myself about what's going on in the world. And I just knew a few things from far away, but I didn't know the exact or the detailed reality. And there are specific things that could shape your mind, small incidents that touches you and touch the human side of you, the side of human feelings and empathy. And I'm going to place this picture. This is one of the stories that you can't look at it other way than with empathy and sadness and rage for this criminal colonization. What is it doing to people, and specifically innocent children? There's a story behind this picture, and it's the story of Muhammad Durra. This young boy was hiding next to his father, and they were trying to hide themselves from the endless bullets that were coming from Israeli soldiers. They were a clear target to them, there was nothing to protect them. And at the same street, there were journalists, and when they were talking about the story of Muhammad Durra, they said they were unable to go and save the child because the amount of bullets that were flying in the air beyond your imaginations was crazy, and they couldn't even go to save the child and his dad. And more than that, the soldiers were yelling at them to not go to the child and his father, to go to Muhammad and his father. They were at first, they were showing them their hands, telling them we have nothing, we have no weapons, we're no threats, we're just normal people. The Israeli soldiers insisted on killing them. And imagine a father next to his son trying to protect him, and he wasn't able to do that. And at the end, the colonization racist bullet reached to the child and he died immediately. And he was executed in front of journalists and cameras filming this moment, and in front of these soldiers who were looking at a child, and he was brutally executed. And I remember when we talked about this story when I was at school, it was just a brief story, we did not dive into it. But me right now as a parent and as looking back as an adult and thinking imagine how the father feels when he was unable to protect his precious child. He was unable to do anything, even though he was protecting his child with his own body. And he himself was caught with a bullet. He was also shot. He had severe injuries. This is a horrific moment for someone to witness, and especially for a father who was trying to hide his child with his own body, but he was unable to do that. This happened in the 2000s. And it wasn't in October 2023. I really feel ashamed that not many media outlets talk about it and not many people talk about it, because Muhammad Durra could have been an engineer, a doctor, and anything. He probably had dreams to fly, to travel, to study, to make his parents proud of him. A lot of children are executed daily by Israel. And not only since October 2023, it was going on for years. Children were executed or taken into prisons, and like thrown into the darkness of prisons with no one talking about him other than like humanitarian organizations that were like later on banned by Israel, like the Organization of Save the Children was always reporting about abuse stories in the Israeli prisons, but later on it was banned by the Israeli government. And this is why I cannot trust these people on anything. They keep banning humanitarian organizations and they keep abducting activists for just saying the truth. And you cannot forget the story of Rachel Curry, who is an American citizen. And when she saw how criminal the soldiers are and how criminal the colonization is, she went with her own body, with a speaker on her hand and wearing like a vest that reflects the lights and shows that this is a humanitarian activist or a human rights activist. With her own body, she was protecting a house, a Palestinian house, because the Israeli bulldozers were advancing into this house to demolish it because it's a Palestinian home and they want to displace the people in that home. And when Rachel Corrie saw that, she stood in front of the bulldozer and she was speaking like with the speaker and she was telling them to not do this, to leave these people alone. And the Israeli soldiers saw her and it was so clear that this is an activist who has like a moral compass and saw how cruel you are and she's trying to stop you from doing a crime. But then they don't like have like this morality of even doubting what they are doing. And imagine what they did. They bulldozed the girl alongside the house and she was killed immediately by a bulldozer that is probably paid by American dollars. And this is still happening till now because the United States have just paid 2 weeks ago like billions for a few tanks and weapons to like Israel for it to continue the genocide. In all of that, imagine like I just realized and found this information on the net and like a lot of people were speaking about it, that after this incident of like bulldozing a girl and executing her in front of cameras and in front of people and activists that was trying to wake you up, like to wake your morals, to give you like a hint, alerting you about how far you went. They literally executed her and then later on they were celebrating how they executed this activist and they were like making pancakes and drawing her face on pancakes and saying we are happy that she was literally flattened like those pancakes. And honestly, I have no description for that. Like those people are not just killing other people, but they are celebrating the way they execute activists and even normal people. We're not just talking like about just activists, but they're killing civilians and celebrating it. Today, I wanted to speak about the release of Greta Thunberg. And I was honestly horrified for 2 days. Like, thought like this girl, she's just 22, she's so young. And I was honestly scared. I don't know like what these people can do. Like they did that to Rachel Corrie, who's a civilian, a normal civilian, a young girl. And they probably can do it to anyone. And they did it to thousands of Palestinian girls and boys and men and women and children and babies. They did it to everyone. And to elderly, they did it to everyone. You cannot trust these people. And then one of the activists was deported to Turkey. In what he was saying, he said like they really held us in inhumane conditions. And they were withholding insulin from one of the activists, or like a few activists who needed insulin. They were like withholding a serious medication, a serious need that is a threat to life. They were withholding insulin from activists. This could show you how low they can go. And by the way, I want to remind you that Gaza for 2 years was besieged and people weren't able to receive insulin. A lot of people were deprived from like medication, very necessary medication and treatments for like a threat to life, like things that are really life-threatening. Back to my point, they like withheld medications from activists, they separated them, they did not let them sleep, and they didn't give them drinkable water for 32 hours. They didn't even give them proper food, and they took them into Getziot prison. This activist, I'm going to be playing the clip from his interview, like when he was released. He was saying like they would come every hour with their dogs and wake me up. Take a look at what he said.
On nous a empêché nos médicaments. On nous a assoiffés en nous proposant aucune eau potable pendant 32 heures. On n'a pas eu droit à une nuit tranquille sans être réveillé par des chiens, des bergers allemands qui nous aboyaient, des unités d'élite, des SWAT teams avec des snipers qui nous menaçaient. On entendait le chargement du fusil, mais vraiment pour nous dire on va vous tirer dessus.
It's literally has an only explanation. It's for the only purpose of leading to the exhaustion of these activists, to let them be like sleep deprived, dehydrated, hungry, and tired, and to lead literally to their exhaustion, which is like a psychological abuse. But it wasn't just psychological abuse, because many of the activists were beaten and many of them were held in like solitary confinement, and they were like separated from the other activists. And I think one of the activists, who is a Scottish politician, they didn't give her insulin and she completely disappeared. No one knows her whereabouts. She was separated from the other activists. I am really like horrified, because this woman is like clearly a Muslim woman and she wears her hijab, her veil. I just hope that the Scottish government do something for her, because I'm not expecting Keir Starmer to do anything for people. And about the governments, you remember that in my last video, like I said, the Spanish and the Italian government sent military vessels to help and to protect Gaza Flotilla. But at some point, the two military vessels went back to Italy and Spain, and they left them. It's like they were just doing that to avoid like the pressure. And then they coordinated everything with the Israeli criminal military to abduct the activists and to hold them inside prisons. And even like legally, you cannot just discuss this legally, because it's not even, they didn't even respect their own law. First of all, these people were abducted from international waters. They did not enter the Palestinian colonized territory that's called Israel. And they also didn't want to enter the colonized territory. They wanted to go straight to Gaza.
My name is Evie Snoker, I'm from the United Kingdom, and if you're watching this video, I've been kidnapped by the IOF and taken illegally against my will to Israel.
And it's so weird how people cannot see that the people in Gaza cannot receive their guests and cannot receive people to help them. They don't have the choice to do that. Israel decided that they will stop anyone from entering Gaza and from seeing the level of destruction in Gaza. And it was so easy for them to do that. You can see who is oppressed and who's the oppressor. Because at this point, you cannot decide to deprive people from food and medical care and deprive babies from milk. That's like a basic human right. Like, it's basic human right to live. The right to live should be like granted for everyone. And Israel does not provide this right to the Palestinian babies and everyone inside Gaza. And again, like, these activists were taken against their will to Israel by the same like militia that is the IDF soldiers. They were taken to a prison, and when they were taken to the prison, that crazy man, he's literally a sociopath. You can see like from the way he talks and the way he's acting, like he's a crazy person. He needs like to receive like psychological care. I think he really needs it. Ben Gvir went straight to those activists who were held in Ketziot prison, and he was bullying them and blackmailing them straight in their face and calling them terrorists. The audacity of this man, like the audacity, I have no words to describe it. You are literally committing war crimes and calling other people terrorists? That's so weird from someone like him to decide who's terrorist or not. He doesn't even see himself. Like, they don't have this self-consciousness. They don't review the things they do. Like everyone on this planet, like, before you go to bed, you start like reviewing the things you did on that day, and you start like saying like, I did this thing right and this thing wrong. But it's so different when you talk about the Israelis, because they don't have this side. They don't see what's wrong with them. They don't have the self-consciousness and the self-control to overlook what they are doing continuously. And that's so horrific, because I think all of these people actually need urgent psychological care and mental health care, because they lack a very crucial human trait, which is empathy and self-consciousness, to like control yourself and look into the things you did. They lack this side. They don't see what's wrong with what they are doing, to the point that they stop activists and civilians who are coming from all across the globe because they were touched with what's going on with the Palestinian people. They abduct these people who are willing to bring food, medical aid, and baby formula to babies, men, women, boys, girls inside Palestine. They weren't even able to achieve that goal, and everything was taken by Israel. Like all of the vessels were taken illegally, stolen illegally. And all of these like crew, they were held in a prison. Imagine like being so self-conscious and being like having this empathy and this love for the humanity that you like went to save a few children, that you have like no blood relationship with them, but you felt like these children need justice and you wanted to bring them their basic human right, which is the right to live, the right to food and clean water. But you find yourself being punished for that and called a terrorist. And I am so sad. Like, I'm so terrified that the media outlets are so narcissist to also realize what's wrong with what they're doing. And all of these journalists who are going on these huge media outlets, not saying what's going on, like honestly and with transparency. And then like Turkish activist who was deported to Turkey, he was talking specifically about what happened to Greta Thunberg. He said she was held by her hair, she was beaten, as a lot of other activists also, and civilians who were like illegally abducted from the Gaza Flotilla. And she was specifically targeted because she's a known figure, a known activist, and especially that this is her second attempt to break the siege on Gaza. She was literally dragged by her hair and forced to crawl on her knees and kiss the Israeli flag.
Siyasetçisi hepsi bize böyle böcek muamelesi yapmaya kalktılar ama herkese böyle davranıyorlar. Greta'ya çok ağır işkence yaptılar. Evet, Greta'ya zulmettiler. Küçücük çocuk da Greta. Onu süründürdüler, İsrail bayrağını öptürdüler. Yani Naziler ne yaptıysa aynısını yaptılar.
Like, I honestly have no description for that, but this is the problem with the ethno-nationalist settler colonies and states in general. You're an ethno-nationalist and also a fascist. You force people to have your own belief, your same beliefs that are fascist, and it's clear fascism to everyone, and not just fascist belief, but they are also colonizer beliefs, imperialist beliefs, and you want people to have these same beliefs, and you get angry when people call you out for your fascism and call you out for breaking the international law and the basic human rights. And this is why they were forcing her to kiss their flag. They are fantasizing about an activist who's against imperialism and fascism and making her kiss their flag. It's so close to the Nazi flag. Not so close, but it's way worse than the Nazi flag.
The Nazis weren't doing what Israel is doing for 75 years.
This is way long time to actually control yourself and manage your narcissistic behavior and try to actually acknowledge what you are doing, because that's so weird. And then this whole thing of the psychological warfare that you cannot do anything about the injustice that's going on in the world. Like they are trying to convince people that when you see those children starved to death, and when you see children being bombed, and also men and women, and when you see women deprived of their basic rights to medical care and to a certain level of hygiene, they are trying to convince you that you cannot do anything about these things, which is not right. You cannot like learn from a sociopath, and you cannot learn from a fascist colonizer. You cannot learn anything good from them because they are criminals and they're trying to turn everyone into criminals. And the other day, like when this creature Netanyahu was telling people that
if you were holding a phone, you were holding a piece of Israel.
Like, what the hell was that? I was ready to cut my arm if he said like your arm has a piece of Israel. I was ready. That's how much I hate the colonizer, ethno-state, fascist, settler colony. That's how much I hate colonization in general. And he was trying to criminalize everyone by telling you, oh, you don't know that you are also like me. You are also war criminals. You are also the same thing like Israel. But I only had two explanations. He's trying to identify himself like Congo, which is a cultural appropriation that Israel usually does to the Palestinians. Cobalt is from Congo, and 70% from the world's cobalt is from Congo. So whenever you're holding a phone or any electrical device, you are holding a piece of Congo, not a piece of Israel. And the second thing, I just found out about a deal between like an Israeli company and Samsung. And this deal means like phones, Samsung phones, I think the A and the S models that are sold to the Middle East and North African area has a surveillance app that you cannot remove from the phone. This surveillance app is made by this Israeli company. And this company already has like legal problems because they like surveil on children and they promote things, inappropriate things to children, or make them like want to buy certain things because they know that the user of the phone is a child. And after their legal problems, look how trashy Samsung are. They start a deal with this company and help them spy on the whole region of the Middle East and the North African countries. This app really sells all of your data and all of the information about you. And I was really horrified that Samsung is actually like dealing with such a company that belongs to such an entity, because the same entity committed the pager attack on Lebanon last year. And it was horrific. Like they built explosive into some phones because Lebanon was on continuous war with Israel, like they were continuously attacking them. And as you've seen, like a lot of the nationalists, the from this like entity, they were saying like Lebanon is also promised to us. Like this is how narcissistic and crazy they are. The pager attack was meant to trick people into responding to a call, a certain call. And when they like respond to this call, the phones explode in their faces. It was really like horrific. It has like people who were targeted were a bunch of children and a bunch of civilians and men and women, and a lot of them had severe injuries. They lost their eyesight, their faces like were like injured severely, like had their ears destroyed and they can't hear anymore. And this pager attack was against civilians, and it was like technological war on civilians and on innocent people. And this is what Samsung is doing. It's dealing with the same entity that committed the pager attack and that is known for spying on children, like promoting inappropriate things to them. And this is how unethical Samsung is. So I hope anyone who's watching this and you're in the Middle East area or in North African area, you stop using Samsung, because they could even make deals with the devil and spy on you and sell your information to the worst people ever. People who are hurting your brothers and sisters. In all of this video, I wanted to talk specifically about the captivity facility, the detaining facility. This prison was built in 1988 specifically to oppress the first Intifada. And if you don't know, the Palestinians were continuously trying to oppose the colonization. They were continuously trying to free their country. Israel was fighting them in the most dirtiest ways. They were oppressing them using this psychological and physical abuse on them. And they built this facility to hold all of the nationalists and to like break their will and to like oppress the first Intifada. And they literally like held 2,000 people. This prison was reported by many humanitarian organizations for its crimes, for breaking the basic human rights, and for sexual and physical violence, and against children too, against men, women, and children. And it's really a way like to disassociate people from their real struggle and make them fight with their own selves, like to expose them to an extreme physical and sexual and psychological abuse so that they either lose their minds or their motivation and their will like is broken and they start disassociating with their own selves. This is what Israel is doing. That's the Ketziot prison that activists were held in. And imagine if these activists are like have governments to protect them and have governments to speak about them. And they were treated this way. They were deprived from insulin, they were beaten, they were starved, they were sleep deprived, and they were dehydrated by Israel. Imagine what's going on with the Palestinians that have literally no government to protect them and to speak about their rights and to fight for them, and have no military power to actually protect their own civilians. These people were abandoned by everyone. They were colonized and they were abandoned by everyone. And then some people have the guts to speak about how the Palestinians are opposing colonization. These people literally have no one to defend them. Until this moment, no one is doing anything to defend them. and they were like struggling for all these years. It was like closed for a while and then reopened again in 2003, I believe, because of the second Intifada. And in all of its working years, it literally held like more than 100,000 people, because it's like a ritual for Israelis to abduct men, women, and children, to some sort of psychological warfare, to like again break their will and to make them fear anything and like to control them. It's a control system. And this prison specifically is in the Negev desert. It's an isolated facility, and literally no one knows what's going on there. No journalists enter this facility and show you the whole thing about it. And if you happened and followed the Syrian revolution and followed like the fall of the Assad regime, and you have seen like a Sinai presence, I would think that this must be 10 times worse. Because again, it's in the middle of the desert. No one knows what's going on there. And I can't help but think about the Palestinian men, women, and boys and girls who were held there. So that's it. If you haven't spoken about Palestine till now, I think it's time for you to show how moral you are, to show your ethics, and to speak about injustices and to support the people who need your voice.
If a woman calls herself a feminist, or someone calls themselves a wellness or holistic whatever, you can't be those things without talking about Palestine. Like this genocide has affected women in ways that the abuse is absolutely incomprehensible. Giving birth in a war zone, no sanitary protection, no formula milk, no incubators for babies. Like, some women have gone to work. I remember reading this thing about this doctor who went to work to save other babies' lives and came back to find her 9 children had been killed. And somebody who calls themselves a feminist that doesn't talk about that or feel moved or compelled to talk about it is not a true feminist.
Speak about them and address injustices so it stops and it won't happen again. Thank you for watching. If you want to support me, don't forget to subscribe and like this video, and see you guys next time.
بقول يعني يشوفنا كيف عايشين هنا مرميين، لا بنروح بنلعب ولا بنضحك ولا بنتعلم ولا بنحضر برامج أطفال. بفتح التلفزيون بلاقي كله تشييع جنازات وطخ وموت وحرب دبابات واجتياح. بلاقيش برامج أطفال أتسلى أتعلم منهم، بلاقيش رسوم متحركة ألعب اتفرج علينا اتسلى. كل تشييع جنازات ولا حاملين شيء بطخه. احنا هنا لا في اكل ولا مي ولا شرب ولا شيء. احنا هنا مرميين زي الشحادين مرميين. شوفوا الشعب الثاني كيف قاعد وبيلعب وبيضحك وبيفرح. احنا علينا حصار تقريبا 2 سنين الحصار علينا، ولا بناكل ولا بنشرب ولا إشي بيسوونا، ولا بفتح المعابر حتى يعبرنا أكل.